Hi Vikram.
Yeah. Good morning, Nitin.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah. So, uh, I think we wait for some time. We have our guest joining in. Uh,
Sure.
Meanwhile, how has been life, Nitin?
Not bad. Today is a lockdown in West Bengal, so we are pretty much stuck at home.
Yeah, I think there are some issues, and basically, lockdown is for a couple of days or only for today.
Yes, it's for today and tomorrow. So I think hopefully from next month the lockdowns will not be there. But this month there are about 8 or 9 days of lockdown.
Okay. So
Yes.
this lockdown, basically creates a dampener from business perspective.
Yes, absolutely. And
So
it breaks the tempo.
yeah, that's true.
I agree
You
with you.
know, but what I see is that the cases, that are basically hi Tanmay, hi Ayush. So are basically coming down. The intensity of lockdown is coming down, which is good for business, and especially now we have Ganesh Chaturthi this week.
Right.
So basically, if the lockdown is eased a bit, that's going to help big time.
I agree
Our
with you.
business.
I think the festive months always are good for sales, but I guess people will have to be a little careful with, the infection spreading. I think people are now taking it very easy, and some people are taking it, very relaxed. So I guess, that cannot happen because if we all don't put in the effort, we'll not be able to get on top of this.
That's right. That's right. Good, Nitin. Welcome again to our Instagram live show.
Thank you.
Just let me give a brief about Nitin. Nitin has been my friend for last 18, 19 years, ever since I joined Bajaj Allianz at Calcutta office. And in those days, Nitin has just, started taking charge of Karini Group. And to talk about more, he did schooling from Lamart's for boys in Calcutta. Incidentally, CEO Tapan Bose is also an alumni of Lamart's Calcutta. And then he graduated from the most prestigious college of Calcutta, St. Xavier's College. And finally, he did MBA from ISB Hyderabad. Again, it speaks for itself. Let me tell something more to my viewers about Nitin. Is basically he started his as a first generation entrepreneur at the age of 18 years. When he came to business, he has the largest dealer automotive brands in East. With a turnover of around 500 crores, and he has presence in Hyundai, Mahindra. He has in Ford and MG, and then Trump also. So basically, he has spread across. Not only he didn't limit himself to Calcutta, he has spread across to other states as well. Currently, he is the director of Karini Group. Another interesting point to my viewers about Nitin is that he was the youngest chairman of the Motor Industries Association and successfully led the association during the toughest time in those days. He created a large distribution network in East India to grow his distribution business. Uh, Nitin, I'm really happy to have you today, such an esteemed guest and my very old friend in this chat show.
I'm very happy to be here as well. It's always nice to talk to you.
Great, Nitin. Nitin, couple of things since I got you. You started so early, and you have been in this industry for last almost 20 years now, more than 20
22
years.
years now, yes. 22 years.
22 years. So who else can be a person to quest some of my queries on automobile industry, especially in the current scenario? Nitin, if you see in 2019 during that automobile, crisis in 2019, where the car sales dropped to a decade low. But what we have seen on the green shoot is that basically the crisis has boosted the second-hand sale, which started projecting, double-digit growth in the second half of the year, and the growth continues. There were no sales during that period. So, what has been the scenario of sales for you post lockdown because of the COVID-19 fears that we were discussing right now? Though there were no new sales. So, what has been the scenario?
There are two parts to it. So let me talk about East first. East, since we are based out of the East, East has been primarily an agrarian economy, and it's not very industrialized compared to the rest of the nation. And we, in fact, send migrant workers out. So whenever there is a crisis in the country, East does not, register a very big drop, and neither does it register a very sharp increase in sales when the rest of the country moves up. So it's quite a stable market for us. So that way, we've been very lucky. Post lockdown, our sales are actually very good, and it's never been better. We are actually better than last year figures. YOY, we are growing, and so things for us are looking good. The primary reason is because the rural economy has done very well. Agriculture has done very well. Tractor sales are at an all-time high. So rural sales are far better than the city. In the city, because of the paucity of the Ubers and the Olas and people being scared of using public transport, that's the major reason for car sales going up. And the two segments of the car sales, which are doing very well, are the small cars and the SUVs. SUVs, as a general trend across the world, has been doing really well, and the small cars, because a lot of people want a car, and being monsoon especially, a lot of people prefer to have a car. I think that once schools open, this sale will go up even further, because they would not like to send their kids in the school bus, and I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a panic till the time things ease out a little bit. So I think that the growth story is here to stay. Also, if you look at India as a country, China does about 27 million cars. We are only at about 3 million cars. So I think we are already at rock bottom. And if the economy is growing, I mean, there is no other way but for, forward for the car sales to go. So I think it's going to grow in the future as well. And as of now, it's just a temporary bump. Last year, because of the economy not doing so well, that was a temporary bump. But I think we should be on our way up. And I see that from 3 million, we should hit about 5 million in about 3 to 4 years' time. So that's about a 70-80% growth is what I foresee.
So happy, Nitin, to hear the silver linings that you see. In fact, as a sales guy, I also see the same kind of V-shape or U-shape recovery for India also post this pandemic. Nitin, one point, if I can say that the lockdown happened at a very critical time last year when around 6,400 crores of BS4 inventory had piled up with dealership, and the dealers had to pay the salaries, the cost of other overheads, interest, and all. So, how did the industry deal with that?
The Supreme Court has just passed its ruling on the 13th of August. If you see the latest ruling, they have said very, very clearly that all the sales which have been made till the 31st of March and have been uploaded on the Vahan site, which is the government portal for registration of cars, they will be allowed to be delivered and sold to the customer. So that's a relief to all the cars and which were stuck because of the BS4, BS6 issues. Yes, there have been some cars which are still stuck as dead stock with the dealers. FADA has been, taking the cause up with the various manufacturers, and is also talking, looking at ways in which the manufacturers can help the dealers by taking back the stock in whichever way possible. So I'm sure they will reach some solution. Yes, but the inventory was at 6,500 crores. I think a lot of it will get liquidated after the order of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Since you already spoken about the car sales, you are seeing a good jump on the car sales once this is over. One interesting stats I want to share with you. A study conducted in China by IPOS, a global market and opinion research firm. It says 66% of the respondents are now thinking of buying a car as opposed to 34% before the outbreak. Another point is that 15% of the respondents now plan to opt for Ola Uber, the shared mobility, which was 21% before. So the dependence on shared mobility is people are not looking forward to. Another point is 77% respondents say the intention is to purchasing a buying car is to get rid of the fact that they don't want to get infected. Do you see a similar pattern in India as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There is no difference at all. In fact, in India, if you see what's happening now, most manufacturers are unable to supply the cars which are needed. And that's the reason why the sales are not so high. Otherwise, if the supply chain would have been perfect, and because in different parts of the country, there's lockdown. For example, I deal with Mahindra as well. Mahindra is primarily based in Maharashtra, and Maharashtra has been having a continuous, spate of lockdowns. So they are struggling to actually supply. Otherwise, if the supplies would have been in order, I think we would have seen good sales. And there is no difference in the opinion. I think if you look at the survey across the world, it's similar. And in China and India, been a huge dependence on public transport. So I think in these countries, there's more of a reason to buy your own car rather than use public transport. So it's very similar. In fact, a couple of websites have done this similar kind of a survey, and the numbers more or less match.
Great. We can see a great, future, going forward. Another, by the end of the year, in US, around 80 to 90% of these new car dealers will be having full e-commerce capability in their shops. In fact, I have seen one, YouTube video for Hyundai as well. I think everything would be done online except for the test drive and maybe the final sign off. So, what is your take on it about e-showrooms or virtual reality or augmented reality? What's your view on that?
So
Especially
I would
when
like,
we see,
yeah,
especially
sure.
when we see some of the new entrants in Indian market are looking forward to that.
Okay, so I'd like to tell you something that unfortunately, we Indians always compare ourselves with America and Europe, but I think now it's high time they compare themselves with us because our dealerships are actually one of the newest in the world. So if you see, Hyundai was only the second company, international company. If you look at Maruti and Suzuki as a collaboration, was the only the second company internationally to enter India, and that's happened only about 22 years back. So technically, all our dealerships and workshops are actually far better and superior in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the software that we use, in terms of being online than most of the dealerships anywhere in the world. In fact, dealerships in Europe and the US are they have a long way to go in terms of upgrading the infrastructure. They are still running in the old systems, and they are about 70, 80, 90 years old. So we have cutting edge technology now at all our dealerships. Most of the brands, you can do everything online. Now, if you look at what's happening in the showroom sizes are shrinking. Most showrooms have virtual reality. They have digital kiosks where you can actually configure your cars. You can do everything from the website of the car, the car company. It's absolutely seamless. In fact, today, if you look at car sales, you can go online to independent car websites like Carvale, Cardeco, as well as to the manufacturer websites, and literally do the entire process online, except the test drive, which has to be given to you physically. So we are already there. And it was already there before as well. But now, because of COVID, I think people are adapting to technology faster. So that's the only difference. And let me tell you, we are far ahead of Europe and in the US in terms of technology adoption.
Yeah, so nice to hear it. The one sentence that you made is very catchy that US should try and copy us instead of we doing it because we're already there.
Correct.
Good. I think another point which may related to lockdown is basically, do you think this lockdown might might spur some manufacturers to adopt robotics and other tech to reduce dependability on manual labor, and in turn, will this require workers to upskill as well?
So, well, there are two parts to it. One is the factory where the manufacturers manufacture the car, and one is at the dealerships. Now, I'll take one by one. So, at the factories, as I said, all the factories in India are cutting edge. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
factories abroad, they are quite rundown. In India, we use the latest robotics, and in most factories, we use just-in-time inventory. So there is absolutely no reason why there could be more robotics being used. I mean, it's next to impossible immediately to do something like that. So we are already at the cutting edge of technology in India. If you look at the new factories that have been put up in the last 7, 8 years, I mean, there's nothing better that you can do. And in fact, in the dealerships as well, from day one, most workshops have all the required tools and equipment. The thing that you talk about upskilling is very interesting because the technology is changing very fast. And
Right.
upskilling is required from that point of view, especially for electric cars. Because of electric cars coming in, a lot of technology is changing, and that's where the upskilling is happening. In fact, if you look at the microchip that is fitted in a car, the kind of
Mhm.
code that it has is much more. It runs into millions of lines now versus literally non-existent about 10 years back. So that's where a lot of technology upgradation has to happen, upskilling has to happen, and I don't think you will see an immediate reduction in manpower anywhere, especially in the workshop. You can increase efficiency, yes, by training and retraining people, but I don't think so. There'll be job roles which will be completely cut out.
Great. So, one interesting point I was thinking about that only now, like on EV, there has been a lot of boost from government side and manufacturers also, coming up with EV. What's your view on EV in India?
Well, if you look at it from the government's point of view, it makes a lot of sense because we save a huge amount in the oil import bill. Today,
Mm-hmm.
our biggest drain on our foreign exchange is the oil import bill. Now, the problem with the EV is that we don't manufacture lithium in India. And lithium is our primary source for batteries, which comes from China. So you might actually end dependence on oil and you might increase your dependence on China, which we don't want either. So I guess currently the first stage that we are going to hit is going to be hybrid, where we increase the efficiency of the car and we get more miles to the liter versus just going completely on EV. Plus, the problem with EV is that it's a fantastic technology and it is very cheap
Mm-hmm.
per kilometer. But the initial cost of the car is very high because of the battery being imported. And the second problem is that we are completely dependent on China. Third, we need enough charging infrastructure. You can technically charge an electric car in your house in a regular 3-point plug, but that takes about 16, 17 hours. So if you look at a DC fast charger, they take about an hour to charge the car 80, 90%. It's like a fast charging like you have on your mobile. But then that
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure needs to be completed. So it's like a chicken and egg situation. So if you see what's happened in Delhi, the Arvind Kejriwal government has announced that they will want about 70, 80% of the cars running on EV because after the lockdown, they've seen a remarkable drop in pollution levels. Now, if the government goes ahead and sets up charging infrastructure, then I think it will be a big, big boost for people wanting to buy EV. Current ranges in EV is about anything between 150 kilometers to about 350 kilometers on one charge. That is actually sufficient if you're driving the car within the city. If you're going outside the city, then it becomes a bit of a problem. In the taxi segment, however, the
Mm-hmm.
taxis are very expensive if you go for the high range EVs. And they need to drive a minimum of 200 to 250 kilometers a day to be profitable. So that's
Right.
where we are stuck. And most of the EVs in the cheaper range, which are fit for taxi, don't have a very good range. They have a range of about 100, 110. Until unless we have enough charging stations, they will have to park their car, for 14, 15 hours, which is not going to be feasible. So I think
Right.
EV is going to be a reality, but not now, maybe another 4 to 5 years.
Another point on EV, what I since I've taken a couple of test drive is that there's an absolute pleasure driving an EV because it's an automatic by virtue
Yeah.
of being an EV. Good, Nitin. A very question pointed to your group is basically a huge group size like you. What do you feel like group like yours should do to contain cost in situation like this? Because your overheads are there.
Well, good question. I don't believe in cost cutting. I believe in cost management. I think, the two words are very, very different. Why? Because when people go berserk cutting cost, you can actually affect your business. And so I don't think so that's a right approach. People then, start cutting costs, which are very, very important for their business. They start removing manpower without even thinking twice. I think that's not the right approach. So what we believe is cost management should be the word to be used. And if you look at the dealerships, there are three costs primarily which are humongous for us. One is manpower because we have a lot of manpower in our sales and service operations. Second is the interest cost that we pay to the bank because we carry a lot of stock. And the manufacturers ask us to completely pay the money and buy the stock. And third is, if there are any offers and discounts that we run. Virtually because of the fact that there are no cars available, currently stocks are at an all-time low and discounts are literally not there because demand is more than supply. So out of the three, two are taken care of. And currently what we are doing is we've created a manpower matrix. So we know who are the top performers, who are the bottom performers, and who are the middle performers. So what we do, rather than focusing on everyone, we focus on the bottom performers and try and find them, ways means to improve their productivity, or we ask them to be replaced. So I don't think so. You can cut down manpower completely. And as I said, sales are good. So there is no reason to cut down manpower. I think you can improve efficiency and improve customer satisfaction. So I think if customers are satisfied, they'll keep coming back to you. So I think, and apart from that, the basic day-to-day costs like electricity, etc., we monitor very tightly. You have to have a very good monitoring system, and we do that very diligently. We compare our costs month on month, and we see how we can benchmark across all our dealerships as well. So I think that benchmarking exercise has really helped us, and we've been able to manage our costs much better.
Great. I think a very matured approach towards cost, I would say, because you can see the silver lining, coming there. So it's high time for upskilling and reskilling our existing manpower.
Right.
Nitin, basically the moratorium is coming towards an end this month. So how do you think the approach of lenders would be both from retail and wholesale perspective, once it ends in August?
Now, that's a very good question. You know why? Because I think people don't realize that our entire industry is completely dependent on the funding from the bank, because nearly 80-85% of the cars are financed. So I'll talk about the retail side first. Retail, I don't see much of a challenge, because today a car is an essential commodity. Customers who are buying a car have an EMI of anything between 10 to 20, 25,000 rupees on an average, which I think is affordable if you're buying a car. And I don't think so there should be a default, because CIBIL scores are now used for everything. And customers are very, very particular about defaulting. And I don't see any reason for defaults happening in the retail segment so fast. You see, the good part about the retail segment in the car industry is that the goods, once repossessed, can be liquidated very fast. Now, if you look at the housing sector, once you repossess a house, it takes a long time to dispose. Versus a car, it is very, very easily disposable. So if you can factor in the default ratios well into your plan, I think the finances should be fine. As far as the wholesale lending goes to dealerships, I think there has been no problem of lenders lending to dealerships who have a sound financial history. They have good rating and they have good practices. So that has never been an issue, and I don't think so that will ever be an issue, especially when we've been talking about the fact that the car sales are going to go up and not down. People who've had poor financial planning and have had diverted money or have fudged their balance sheets, I think those guys will always face a problem no matter what industry. So I think the lenders, one good thing actually that's happened is that the lenders are actually analyzing your balance sheet in more detail. They're hand holding you and they're working with you as a team. Earlier, it would be just the fact that they would lend you the money and tell you to do your business. I think that banking has always been a relationship business, like how insurance has always been a relationship. We spoke about how we know each other for more than 18, 19 years. Banking used to be like that, but somewhere down the line it lost touch and it became more of a transactional business. And now I think banking is coming back to being a relationship business, because if you don't understand your client's business, how are you going to lend? And if you're lending it's not your money, you've got borrowers' money or depositors' money which you are lending out. So I think now banking is becoming more of a relationship business, and the banks which are doing a good job of that, they'll be able to survive much better in the future.
Good, Nitesh. So, I feel so positive whilst talking to you, because you always see the brighter side of it, and the serious players remains in business kind of stuff. During this pandemic, Nitin, what digital tools did you use to service your customers, to service the policies or the claims? So, what did you adopt?
So that's a great question, because you see now in every area of our dealership, as I said, we already had the digital tools in place, but it wasn't being used by the customer. Neither would we land up pushing the customers to use it. If you see during the lockdown, when we had a lockdown for more than 50, 60 days, we did a lot of digital marketing. We were in touch with our customers. We knew exactly. And now being all our ERP is on the cloud. So actually sitting at your house, each salesperson can track his customers and talk to the customers and stay in touch. So we stayed in touch with the customers. We did a lot of digital marketing. We ensured that we were in touch with the customers over WhatsApp, email, and all possible digital mediums. We made our website very robust. For insurance, we actually called up the customers, got their payments completely online, and emailed them their policies digitally. So we completed the entire loop completely digitally. And let me tell you, we had just about a 8 or 10% drop in our renewals, which is remarkable. And that too, we made it up because there were some customers who still want to pay by check. And though we couldn't pick it up, but it speaks volumes that in a country like India, 90% of our work was done digitally during the lockdown, and policies did not lapse. Very, very few
Mhm.
customers, insisted on paying on check. And I think, that 10% will be there anywhere in the world. So I guess we are at that level. If you come to workshops, you can actually now send your car to the workshop. We can pick it up and drop it, and you can completely do everything digitally, including approving your work list. It can come to you via WhatsApp. You can approve it. You can even get your bill on WhatsApp, and you can pay online. So you don't need to step foot, into the workshop as well.
Great, Nitin. I think going digital was obvious in any case. I think this pandemic has basically preponed this factor, and I see the dealerships like yours and the bigger ones, they adopted it very fast. Nitin, last question, which is very personal from my perspective also, as you served your customers during the pandemic, and the lockdown. Bajaj Allianz also, did a very good job. We serviced around 15 lakh claims during that period, and we serviced around 30 lakhs policies during this period. In fact, we proactively reached out to the dealers during lockdown where the jobs were half done or done, but the billing could not be done. So our claims team reached out to the dealership to ensure that we keep you liquid actually. So what has been your experience with Bajaj, both from sales and service perspective?
Well, let me just tell you that Bajaj was one of the first companies we worked with from the private sector when the private sector came into the insurance business. And it speaks volumes that we are still talking to each other after so many years. So, I think you have maintained your relationship very well with the customers. And I think Bajaj was one of the first companies which called me up personally during the lockdown and said, whatever issues you have, if there are any claims which are pending, or if there are cars in your workshop, please send us. We will pay you the money right now online. Don't worry about any claim servicing. And we've never, honestly, I always believe that it's not about money only, it's about relationships also. And I think Bajaj has led from the front in terms of relationships, and we've never had a claim issue ever. It's been, I think, 18, 19 years since we've been working, and we've never faced a problem. And I think none of our customers, if you actually have to sit with our renewal team to understand that when a customer buys a policy from Bajaj, they would never want to switch. So they are so happy with the entire claim process and the way everything is available online. The policies are digitally available. You can make payments online. It's very convenient. And I think the main thing when you buy a policy is about claim settlement. I think Bajaj has been very, very good there, and we've never ever had a problem with claim settlement ever. So I think it speaks volumes about how you take care of your customers.
Thank you so much, Nitin. Thank you so much, for your time and appreciating and acknowledging, Bajik's performance on that. Thank you so much, Nitin.
Thank you. It was very nice talking to you, Subhashish.
It was real pleasure talking to you because I'm talking in this pandemic situation when the sentiments are low. I'm talking to a gentleman who is super excited about coming months with numbers and logic in front of it, and we can see the silver lining very clearly. Thank
I
you
would
so
just
much.
like to say that I would just like to say that all the best and the biggest businesses have been conceived during depressions or downturns. So I guess if people look at it as an opportunity, you can do a lot.
Yes, you are right on that. Thank you, Nitin. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
viewers. We didn't see any question to respond to. We'll connect you, Nitin, again after after a couple of days.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks, Subhashish. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye bye.